So in this session, we're really going to look at integrating Service Manager 2010 with Configuration Manager. And the first thing we actually do is need to make some changes on the Configuration Manager box to actually enable Service Manager to have the right permissions to actually be able to go and interact with Configuration Manager in terms of creating collections, advertisements, seeing what programs are available. So this is my Configuration Manager installation. Actually, one of the first things we're going to do is around the membership of the SMS admins group. And essentially who I need to make members of that group is my workflow account and the actual service account that Service Manager uses. So now they're both added in. The next thing is actually make sure my DCOM configuration is correct. So I'm firing up DCOM config, going into my component services, computers, my local machine, then the properties. I need to make sure for my security, for the launch and activation permissions, I've actually got for my local SMS admins group, so I changed it to local. I need to make sure it's got the remote activation and local launch. Now I can actually go in and make changes, and this is a fairly cumbersome part right here. So I'm actually going to do here is actually add specific rights for both that workflow and the service account. And it's actually the workflow account that needs most of the permissions. And essentially now I just have to go through and add specific rights. So the first one is around the site. It's all instances. And I need to be able to read all of the sites. And now I'm just going to go through and add additional rights for all the different types of access I need. So just really, as you're going through this, duplicate the permissions that I'm saying here. So the good news is, obviously, as I'm going through this, I'm not just memorizing all of these. There's actually a document Microsoft provide that links out all the different permissions you have. Once we've actually done this, I'll just open it up briefly so we can actually see it, and that's really what I would advise you use once you're creating these permissions, because just trying to copy probably screen by screen you may get it, but in case you miss one, rather than having to keep rewind video, you can actually just go and look at that document directly. There's actually quite a few we need. And as you actually work through them, you'll probably realize what it's doing. It effectively has to be able to read information about the sites. I need to be able to create advertisements, same for certain configuration items. I need to be able to modify collections and create my own collections, so I can add computers into a collection, and so then I can create my own advertisement and target that advertisement at the collection. So it's really all about enabling that workflow process to be able to interact and modify Config Manager to do the deployments I need. And that was really the bulk of it. We do also need to give the service, the management account, some permissions as well, but they're actually a lot less. And I need to add in the domain name. So again, we're just going to go through it. Don't worry, this isn't as bad as last time. So notice this time it's more about being able to just see the resources. There's not so much around management them. They're actually, okay, I need to be able to check and see what's in them. Okay, so that document that actually lists all these things. We can see them now. So the document is really what I would recommend you use. So what I'm actually now going to do is install, there's a Portal MSI file. And what this really does is allow the end user portal to interact correctly with the website, and we need to run that on anyone that's going to run the self-service portal. So you would want to push this out with group policy or config manager to any machine that needs to use the self-service portal. So in this instance here, just for this test, I'm just running it manually. But again, in your sort of production environment, you need to make sure this is on every machine. So you're going to want to deploy this with a better method. So I'm installing it on the main client I'm going to do this testing with. And I'll install it on my Service Manager box as well. So I'll do some of the testing locally here as well. We'll now actually go in and we'll create the connector to Configuration Manager. So we're just going to get a name. I mean, you might want to say a bit more useful, but for my lab, there's not a huge amount of other options. So we're giving it the database server where we're storing our SCCM database, and the actual name of the database. So if you're not sure, if you just want to check, we can actually fire up our SQL Server Management Studio and just see a quick list of all our databases. I'm pretty sure mine's SMS_lab, but just to be 100% on the safe side, we can go in, expand it out, and SMS_lab. So that's what I'm just going to put in that there. We can then actually test to make sure we can actually connect with the system account. Okay, so I can't connect. So there's actually a set of permissions I need to give, because obviously my service account doesn't have any rights to my configuration manager database. So again, I'm going to go into Management Studio, and when I actually select the database, I'm going to the logons. You can see I have my Service Manager service. Under User Mappings, I'm actually going to go in and add for SMS Lab. I need to give myself 2 additional rights, DB Data Reader, and also the extract role. So the reason I actually jump around here is I accidentally selected, when I was recording this, the deny data reader by mistake. So I had to quickly go back and add data reader correctly. So now I can jump back and test connection, type in the password. It now works. So now it's actually already gone and scanned, and it's saying which collections do I want to synchronize information with. So I'm just going to go and select the main ones I use in the environment. I mean, you could select all of them. There's really no harm in that, but I'm just showing that I can be selected. I don't have any Windows 2000 or 2003 or mobile devices here that I actually care about. So you notice there it's going to synchronize once a day to get updated information. I can manually run the synchronization as well to make it immediate. So I can notice I can click that and run the synchronization. So now I can actually go in as part of the portal and actually configure the software deployment. So all I have to do here is type in the site server name, so my configuration manager server, and then I'm going to type in the site code, which again for my environment was just lab. So before I go any further, what I want to do is create some templates. And these templates are going to be for the change request. So basically, when a user requests software, it's going to fill in most of the change request details and specify what action. So I want 2. This one's going to require the manager approval. So basically, whoever their manager is as part of their Active Directory user object, you specify a manager. That manager person is going to have to authorize this. So it's a type change request. and I'm going to fill in a few details. So I'm just going to put in, for example, a title. They want software. Description. Then for the area, it's actually going from software installation. We can do a priority and the impact and the risk. So the priority, I mean, it's a self-service, so we want this to be immediate. The impact is standard, and I mean, it's a low risk. It's a software installation. So now we actually want to go into the activities. Because this is where I'm actually going to add to say, okay, I want a review activity, and for that review activity, what I'm actually going to do is specify that I want the line manager approval. So I accept the default review activity. I put in a title and description. And very important is that checkbox for line manager should review. That's what's going to make it go and check to say, okay, who is the manager of this person? They're the one that needs to actually do that approval. So need to make sure we check that. And then for the stage, I'm actually just going to go in, say this is approve. And that's all I need. Notice I could add additional reviewers and items like that, but again, you can be very complex in this, but for this is just a basic software approval. I don't need all that. So now I'm actually going to go in and create exactly the same thing again, but this time not requiring approval. This is going to be an auto-approved type of template. So when I select the software packages I want to make available for end-user self-service, I pick the template that gets applied to that software request. So if it's a piece of software that I want the manager to approve, I'll select this manager approval template. If it's a piece of software I don't care about, it can go to anyone who wants it, then I'll select the auto approve one. So there's my new one. Now I'm going to go in and create that second one. And again, it's exactly the same process. Screen, all this looks the same. The only thing I'm going to do differently this time is for my activity. It's an auto approval, and this time for the approval condition I just set it to automatic, and that's the only difference between those two. So now I have two templates. One with approval, one without. And at this point, I'm actually ready to now go in and actually do that configuration of, well, let's create some items in Configuration Manager and then link them and make them available into the Service Manager Self-Service Portal. So let's actually go and proceed with that part. Now I have the connection there to Configuration Manager. I have my sort of change request templates ready. I actually need obviously some software I want to deploy from Configuration Manager. And for this test, all I've actually done is, this is my Configuration Manager server. I created there's a file share sources which I use for other things in Config Manager, and I've got a few pictures in that folder. What I've actually done is I've created a new package which doesn't actually have any files in it. There's no files that make up this package, so there's no distribution points. And I created two programs. Remember, program in a package is just running something. It could be an install, it could be a setup.exe, or it can be any command you want. People sometimes use these for things like running a defrag. So what I've actually got in this one is my standard run is just copying a picture into the public pictures folder. It's a 5 meg picture, it should take about 2 minutes, shouldn't even take that long. Nothing special about it at all, it's just for testing purposes. Likewise, I have a second one just so I can test the actual advertisement status of just a general advertisement to a client. Just copies a different picture. For my advertisements, the only advertisements I have is deploying that Smallville picture. It should be available to all of my systems. So if I actually go and look at my client, if I jump over and look at Run Advertise Programs, you can see there's that copy Smallville and it's still the AppV Client, which has actually already been run on this machine. I could also use the Programs and Features, which also hooks into that same list, but I'm just going to use the Configuration Manager interface. So I had those defined. So the next thing is obviously in Service Manager itself, under my administration, I already configured the connection to Configuration Manager. So that's actually already done. And then I actually get this list of software packages. So you can see I've got my copy picture package there. And to make it available to actually be published, what we actually need to do is we select it, we do configure, and then within that it has the various programs. And so I have to say publish this package to the Self-Service Portal. If I don't check this, it won't be available. So I'm publishing that package to the Self-Service Portal. And then once it's there, you have to enable it. So you actually have to, I've already done publish, so if I selected a different one, you'll have the action to publish it. Sorry, there it is. So right there. Once that's been done, so I got the list of programs that are available, I made sure it was published to the Self-Service Portal, and then I set to publish here. I then went in and you create a software deployment process. And think of these processes as kind of names of groups of applications. And you can see here I'm using those two templates I created. I already configured this, I tested it a few times. So for my test packages, so you would just go in here, you give it a name, a description. So remember, this name is what it's going to show as on the self-service portal as the grouping of applications. This could be line of business apps, it could be office apps, it could be media, whatever. I then selected the package that I wanted within it. Category is a change request, and I selected I want manager approval. And that's really all there is to it. So now that should actually show in the self-service portal. So if I jump over to a user and I launch the web browser, this is my home site again, go to the end user self-service portal. Again, they're not being prompted for credentials because I've already got this set as an intranet site. So it just passes my credentials straight through. This information is obviously all coming from the Active Directory connector, so that's now populated automatically. I want to request software. So you have the categories that I put for those process. So I actually want my copy picture test, copy picture, and it's part of the test category. It needs approval. Justification is I need to test this. Obviously, if it's a proper app, you'd put something meaningful in that your manager could see, well, yeah, they need it for this reason. And then submit. So that's now in there, and it's been submitted by that user. So if I now jump to Service Manager, if I look at my work items, and I look at all my change requests, I now have this change request. And things take a little while, so there's obviously this workflow engine in the background that's going through, checking for things, updates them periodically. So this may take a couple of seconds, but if I open this up, I can see it's used the information from my template. So it obviously knows what computer it is, where I entered the request. You can see the reason, who it was created by. Under activities, you can see, okay, so this is in process. So the next thing that happens is the manager needs to approve it, and then it's actually going to go and do that installation. Okay, so who is the manager? Again, it's getting that from Active Directory. If I go and look at my configuration items and look at my users for Bruce, organization is I am the manager, which seems obviously fairly egotistical that I'm the manager of Batman, but there we go. So I now need to go and approve that. So the next thing I can do now is I'm going to fire it up and log in as me instead of administrator. So I could override this. So I could actually go as an administrator and actually approve that within the Service Manager console. I'm actually going to do it the right way. I'm Bruce's manager. So I should now see an approval request pending. So I'm actually going to jump to the Analyst portal this time. And we can integrate this with email, so I would get an email sent to me saying, hey, there's something ready for you to approve. Likewise, if we have the Exchange connector, I can actually approve it via an email. And I'm going to do that as, again, a separate seminar. We'll walk through email capabilities. For this, I just wanted to use the standard portal. So you can see, hey, I've got one to review when I just go and look at the process. Here it is, so I'm going to click on it. So it requires why they want to install copy picture. So I'm going to approve this. Yep. Good to me. Approve. So now it's successfully approved. So I can close that. If I go back to my analyst portal, and actually do a refresh. Okay, again, it's going through that workflow. It takes a second, but there's nothing for me to do on that anymore. So let's jump out and jump back to the work items. And what we should now see is if I go and look at those activities again, it should have moved past that stage. And it's now looking to actually install it. So that's completed. Now it's pending to actually do the installation. So the way it does the actual installation is obviously back into Config Manager. And what we'll see is, now again, it's the workflow, it takes a little while. We're going to see a new advertisement will appear. It also creates its own collections. Now obviously I've done this testing already, so it already pre-created, this is the software package. And currently there's no machines in it. Now shortly, once the workflow actually kicks in and starts working, what it's going to do is, there we go, so it's added the computer to that collection. It would have created an advertisement as well. There we go. Service Manager advertisement for copy picture, and the program is run. That's the one the user selected as part of that test. Look at my advertisement status. Again, I should see, I was going to take a second, but I'll see that other advertisement actually show up. There we go. So far no one's actually run it. So now this client machine is the one that should get that piece of software. Now I could actually wait for the configuration manager client to actually kick in. Remember, the way we know it works is we should see a picture just appear in this pictures folder. I'm kind of impatient, so I'm actually going to go and launch the configuration manager. And under actions, I'm going to refresh machine policy. That's what actually decides, hey, what software is available to me. See, it said new program was available straight away. And if I select it, I can see what that actually is. And notice it's that copy picture run. And it's going to run in 5 minutes automatically, as it said. So I can sit and wait for the 5 minutes. And I can actually see that there as well, show countdown. So in 4 minutes and 26 it's going to run copy picture run. I don't want to sit and wait for that, but you can see how it automatically has made it ready and applied it to that user. Don't want to wait the 5 minutes, run, do it now, bang. That's the power of that integration between Service Manager and Configuration Manager. Very actually easy to get that set up. Now you may want to do additional customizations, etc. But really that goes to show exactly what you can achieve with this combination. That's obviously the big power of Service Manager. It's in the integration with AD, with Config Manager, with Ops Manager, with Exchange, with a Palace to really extend its reach to pretty much everything. Like I say, now if I actually went and looked at the run advertised programs, we'll see that copy pictures now actually run. And again, although I told it to run manually, that was just not waiting for the 5 minutes. And there you have it. I mean, that really shows the power. And then what will happen is, I think it's once every 24 hours, Service Manager will go and check with Config Manager to say, hey, what happened? Did it successfully deploy? And then it would update this to closed. So if I look at it now and look at my activity, and I can look at the detail, it still shows as pending because it's not got the response back yet, but that will just happen automatically. So that was our deploying software through Service Manager and Configuration Manager. Now, if you're doing this in a lab environment, and you actually want to sort of play around and sort of be able to repeat this, there's often problems because obviously Configuration Manager won't keep rerunning the same program automatically. So for my example, I want to be able to rerun this test again soon to sort of clear up the system ready for my testing again. What I'm actually going to do is in Configuration Manager, what we should actually see is it received and did that, but I can actually just go and delete that advertisement. I don't need it there, I've done my test. I can go and so I actually don't want to do that. I'm actually going to just remove it from the collection. So I'll just delete it out that way. Obviously, if I delete the whole compute object, it will then vanish from Configuration Manager's database, which obviously I do not want to do. So now I've deleted it from there. So now that obviously it's not targeted anymore for that machine. And on the client side, to remove the fact that it thinks it's already run it in the past, so it would obviously let me run it again, I can actually go into local machine software. And again, this is only saying if you're in your lab environment. This is not saying you would ever do in a production environment. This allows you to sort of muck around, and obviously I can retest it over and over again and keep redeploying the same package. It just makes it great to sort of demo to people, show. See, I can see my execution history. So that was AppV. And there's my program. So I'm just going to delete that. Oh. Normally I just delete that. Oh, it's because I'm logged on as a normal user. Apologies. So I'm going to run it as an administrator. So I'm just logged on as a normal user right now. Local machine software, Microsoft, SMS, mobile client, software distribution, execution history, system, run, and delete. Now if I go back and look, it's not aware it's ever been run. So I could just re-advertise that same program and it would run again on this client. So I'm good to demo again. Hope that was useful. Hopefully you see the real power and the integration that's capable between Service Manager and Config Manager. And again, that's just really the basics. It can also integrate around design configuration management and lots more.